Thabo Masuku, the Executive Director for the Foundation for Socio-Economic Justice, an organization from Eswatini that builds grassroots movements, support them, capacitate them, and which is just to provide an enabling environment for those growing movements to be adequately capacitated to respond to the needs and challenges of their members. I grew up as a young student activist, and that was the inspiration for me to start working on fighting for the rights of young people. And from that inspiration over almost 20 years ago is the one that propelled me to even get to the stage where I understand the challenges that the people of Eswatini, as it were facing, and the need for all of us to rise and defend the people of Eswatini, and ensure that we all continue with the struggle. That as a student activist, we saw political parties waging in Swaziland. So that really inspired us as young people to grow up and continue the call for the democratization of Eswatini. So, and also realizing the sufferings of our people in the hands of the current government in the country. The fact that there are people in a country as small as Swaziland who go for a day without having had a meal meant that those of us who were privileged, maybe not to face such situations, had to stand up and say enough is enough. And I've been involved with the people of Eswatini, mostly the underprivileged and the poor people. I have been with them in the struggle for democracy ever since I was a student. And that, to me, is not just about where I am today or where I come from, but it's about the plight of the people of the voiceless, in fact, that has led me to be where I am today. And I draw inspiration from other leaders who have come before me in the mass democratic movement, but mostly within civil society, because now I work for an NGO, for an organization within civil society. So I draw a lot of inspiration from leaders that have come before me in the mass democratic movement. And from that, the work that we are doing now has never been more necessary than the times that we are in the Kingdom of Eswatini, where we've seen the regime going to full strength in terms of defending itself to ensure that it holds on to power, to the extent of killing unarmed citizens in the current unrest that's ongoing in the country. And the organization that I work for, the FSHA, has been called upon to rise and be the center of coordination for all interventions that were meant to ensure that the effects of the state-sponsored violence and brutalization of our people is really, sometimes, cushioned in terms of its impact on the human rights defenders Hence, we stepped up and ensured that we do everything that we can do to ensure that human rights defenders are afforded those protections, they are afforded those much needed medical assistance and legal support in terms of legal representation and all other means necessary and related to that. But also on top of that, we continue to galvanize the people. We continue to motivate our people, our activists on the ground to continue the onslaught, to continue the struggle until victory is achieved. And what I can say to other human rights defenders out there is that it is not an easy task that is bestowed upon us as leaders of civil society, as human rights defenders. We are sometimes called upon to be selfless. We are sometimes called upon to sacrifice everything that we stand for just to ensure that people are afforded their rights, people are able to defend their rights, people are able to stand for what they believe in. So that role is never easy because we tend to, as leaders within civil society, overlook our own security and safety for the sake of those we are leading. Whilst also at the same time, we need to ensure that we look after ourselves. We also ensure that we are conscious of our own security to ensure that we continue to provide the necessary assistance that our people need on the ground, because at the same time, without us, a lot of other things can be lost whilst we are focusing on ensuring security for the other HRDs on the ground. So that would be my message to human rights defenders, leaders on the ground, to say it's not easy, but it's possible. As long as your support structure is strong, which is our support structure is always the people, is always the masses of our people on the ground. If we ensure that our base is supported, our base is well capacitated, our base is well organized and mobilized, then that's our springboard as human rights defenders. We can achieve anything and everything as long as we ensure proper coordination, we ensure mobilization and organization of our people on the ground. Thank you.